Bicycle Regiment of the Dutch Army on the eve of the German invasion, 1940. Police photos of 27-year-old John Wojtowicz, sentenced to 20 years for robbing a bank to pay for a sex change operation for his lover, 1972. A nurse holds a newspaper bearing the headline announcing the creation of the Salk polio vaccine for a patient, 1955. Only 3 people in the USA were qualified to manually pack parachutes for Apollo 15. Their experience was so important that they were not allowed to travel together in one car, out of fear that a car accident could jeopardize the entire space program. Grandma sees punks for the first time in her life. London, 1982. New York, 1958. Dancers at a nightclub playing chess. Smartphones had not yet been invented. Family Shelter for Atomic War, USA, 1961. The start of the one-legged World War I veterans race, New York, 1918. Marine reservists practicing an amphibious landing in Coronado and an unfazed man relaxing, 1978. Wreckage of the submarine Kursk, Barents Sea, 2000. A chilling moment frozen in time, just 2 seconds after the atomic bomb detonated over Nagasaki, Japan, 1945. In 1869, a caterpillar invasion struck America. In the photo, a group of volunteers is destroying the harmful insects. A photograph of Rainy Bethia taken 2 weeks before his hanging for the rape of a 70-year-old white woman. It was the last public execution in America, 1936. A horse in a tree after a storm in Louisville, Kentucky, 1937. In the psychiatric clinic where I was treated, one man thought he was Napoleon, and another, San Martin. No one believed me that I was Maradona. Diego Maradona, 1994. After the discovery of radioactivity, many manufacturers began adding new, miraculous substances to consumer goods. In the first half of the 20th century, radioactive bread, toothpaste, cosmetics, and bath salts were produced in different countries. Some products were even named after radium because of the trend. A 25-year-old woman at the grave of her brother, who served in the U.S. Army in Iraq and Afghanistan, 2013. Integrating black students will turn schools into jungles, interracial jungles, said a young Joe Biden in 1977. Glimpse into Afghanistan's infrastructure and culture, mid-20th century. Once, the roof of an Aloha Airlines first-class cabin tore off at an altitude of 7,800 meters. The pilot managed an emergency landing. 94 of the 95 people on board survived. The body of the flight attendant who was sucked out was never found, 1988. The first same-sex marriage in history. Axel and Eigil Axgil became the first same-sex couple to receive legal recognition and rights. Denmark, 1989. This unique photo shows a typical post-war Moscow health ritual, children napping outdoors in 10°C. Folding cots are set up in a snowy yard, and the cocooned children demonstrate Soviet medicine's belief in the miraculous power of cold. USSR, 1958. A little boy watches Warsaw Pact troops invade his country, Czechoslovakia, August 1968. Border guards of East Berlin increased the height of the Berlin Wall by adding barbed wire to prevent attempts by residents of the USSR to escape to Germany, 1961. John Spears, leader of the Green Corn Rebellion. In 1917, he and 1,000 farmers planned a march on Washington to overthrow the government and end U.S. involvement in World War I. A notable four-year contrast of Abraham Lincoln during wartime in 1861 and 1865. Jews arrested after Kristallnacht brought to Buchenwald, November 1938. Infant crawling races, a popular sporting event in New Jersey during the 1940s. Traces left by drops that fell in the same spot for 700 years. Photo from the Castel Nuovo Castle, built in 1282 in Naples, Italy. Korean soldier Yang Kyung-jong, who fought for three armies during W. Japan, the Soviet Union, and Germany. Until 1887, all runners stood at the starting line upright, waiting for the signal to begin running. But one day, American sprinter Cheryl, while walking through a zoo, noticed that kangaroos squat before moving. So, at his first competition, Cheryl took a crouching start. The audience and competitors laughed for a long time, but Cheryl won the race with his unusual start. Sale of nuclear fallout shelters, Los Angeles, 1961. Chinese and Malayan girls forcibly taken by the Japanese to work as comfort women, World War II. It is estimated that up to 90% of comfort women died by 1947. In 1880, cocaine was part of many medicines used to treat colds, neuralgia, headaches, and insomnia. Liberated slaves on the deck of the ship HMS Daphne, 1868. A Soviet lieutenant wipes his boots on a Nazi flag in Breslau, 1945. They each drank only one glass of beer. Belgium, 1971. Los Angeles police conducting a special operation to capture a criminal who killed an elderly woman for her wallet, 1960. A two-headed dog created by Russian scientist Vladimir Demikov in 1954 through the transplantation of one dog's head onto another. The dog lived for 1 month. 3 children sift sand at a gold mine in Dominion, Alaska, 1898. Hennessy Cognac Tasters, 1952. An attempt to remove a psychiatric clinic patient from a tree, London, 1895. 3 Jewish men, all of whom survived the Auschwitz concentration camp and were liberated on the same day, reunite 73 years later. Photo from 2019. Inside someone's locket, 1940s. John F. Kennedy, Dallas, a minute before the shots rang out, 1963. The largest horse in the world, captured in 1927 in England, named Supreme. An enormous horse, 2 meters tall and weighing 1.5 tons, was as heavy as freight trains. Firefighters seal off an oil well during firefighting efforts in Kuwait oil fields, 1991. Marilyn Monroe was secretly filmed in a 15-minute adult film performing oral sex. The film is not publicly available. It was bought by a private collector for $1.5 million. Group photo of Japanese kamikaze pilots before an attack on the central base of the U.S. Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor, 1944. Residents of Hanoi after an air raid warning, Vietnam, 1967. In the early last century, weight loss products were extremely dangerous. Pills containing dinitrophenol were sold. They prevented calories from turning into fat but caused lethal poisoning. A basketball match played on unicycles, United States, 1960s. Pilots on a flight simulator, Russian Empire, 1915. Albert Einstein at age 5, Munich, 1884. The last known photo of Charlie Chaplin. Before you, the remains of Gustav Vasa, A Swedish king from the 16th century. The king who ruled Sweden nearly 500 years ago lies before us as if on display. Crown, scepter, everything is in place, but only a skeleton remains of the king. A grim but powerful reminder that time spares no one, not even kings. The collapse of a crane on the Al-Haram Mosque in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. 107 dead, 238 wounded. The crane belonged to the bin Laden family's construction company. The First Feminists, 1911. Emperor Nicholas II inspecting trophies after a hunt, Belarus, 1913. The trophies were beautifully arranged for him. British nuclear test, Orange Herald, 1957. France, c. 1945. Boys staring through a bakery window at trays of fresh pastries and bread. An Iraqi POW comforts his 4-year-old son in the yard of a dusty prison in Iraq, 2003. A grim memorial to the victims of the Buchenwald concentration camp. Death trains with prisoners traveled on these rails, Germany. This is a rally of Hitler's supporters in 1937. No rally in human history gathered so many people. 8 years later, in 1945, after Germany's defeat, they would claim they had never supported Hitler's ideas. 2 illustrations condemning the crimes of the corset and how it maims and restricts women's bodily organs. The Last Feat, 1991. Vukovar, a Serbian fighter carried a wounded comrade out of battle. Then he returned for another and was killed. He saved a life, sacrificing his own. In the late 19th century, scientific progress was astounding the world. A simple cleaning lady from the USA was so inspired by this that she bequeathed herself to science. A man raised this bull and then sold it to the arena. The wounded bull recognized him among the hundreds of spectators and ran up to him seeking salvation. The man kissed him, after which the bull was killed. Spanish newspapers dubbed this the kiss of Judas. French soldiers use a homemade trench catapult to throw grenades at German positions, 1915. Officers of the Titanic before its departure, 1912. A police officer on a Harley with an old-fashioned mobile pre-arrest camera, 1921. The cabinet ministers line up for execution after a coup in Liberia, 1980. Soul cleansing with boiling water. In some Catholic countries, it was once believed that a sinner's soul could be cleansed. For this, they poured boiling water down the person's throat or threw hot coals into it. Scold's bridle, an item invented in the 1500s. An iron mask that tightly clung to the head was placed on women as a punishment for rude chatter and arguments. It was impossible to speak while wearing it. A bell was attached on top to attract attention. Mad dictator Idi Amin declares a one-day war on the United States, only to declare himself the winner the next day. Uganda, 1975. During his rule, up to 500,000 people were victims of repression, with at least 2,000 of his own citizens killed personally by the president. The last Mexican grizzly bear is shown to the public. Mexico, 1954. In 1947, boxer Sugar Ray Robinson did not want to enter the ring with Jimmy Doyle because he had a dream in which he killed his opponent. Robinson was persuaded to participate in the fight. The 8th round ended with Doyle falling after a punch from Robinson and being unable to continue the fight. He later died in the hospital. A charred but well-preserved loaf of bread, even the baker's stamp is visible, from Pompeii, AD 79. Hand-dropped bombs, World War I. Krista McAuliffe's parents watching the Challenger explode in 1986. Toys of children. Prisoners of the Nazi death camp Majdanek, discovered after liberation by Soviet soldiers, 1944. In the late 20th century in the DPRK, North Korea, there was a famine that claimed, according to official data, from 10,000 to 3 million lives. Joe Reed's Guinness World Record jump, 1998. The stuntman jumped between buildings on a motorcycle with a 250 cubic inch engine. The distance between the buildings was 65 feet. Reed jumped to a height of 116 feet. A typical wedding during a time of scarcity, USSR, 1963. Inside a German WWI submarine. A device for focusing on reading and writing, invented by Hugo Gernsback, provided deep noise isolation, supplied pure oxygen, and limited vision to a narrow slit for text, USA, 1925. A girl crossing the border between East and West Berlin. She made it and survived, but not everyone was so lucky. Many were shot. Later, a 4-meter-high brick Berlin Wall would be built along this drawn line. Notorious African dictator Francisco Nguema ordered the execution of his regime's opponents on Christmas 1975 in a unique way. 150 people were shot by soldiers, dressed as Santa Claus on a football field to music. In 1979, Nguema was overthrown and executed. Strongman Stefan shows his strength by pulling a car through the streets of Berlin with his teeth, 1925. Dance of Loyalty, a ritual dance symbolizing the dancer's loyalty to the country's leader, Mao Zedong, PRC, 1967. Armor of Ferdinand I, Holy Roman Emperor, 16th century. Kuwait on Fire, 1991. In a Japanese village in 1901, girls raised and looked after the younger children in the family so that the parents could work and feed everyone. In the 1940s, women were allowed to smoke in maternity wards. The Great Wall of China is regretfully called the longest cemetery in the world. Thousands of people are buried inside it. They died carrying enormous boulders to construct the wall. Waitress race carrying drinks, New York, 1967. During World War II, the U.S. Department of Defense commissioned Walt Disney to design children's gas masks. When Soviet scientists created the world's first controlled thermonuclear fusion reactor and reached plasma temperatures of 10 million degrees, human zoos still existed in Europe, 1954. Moby the whale undergoes a dental checkup at Marineland Park, USA, 1964. Ancient Roman tokens used for paying prostitutes. Sparked a reaction. Whether good or bad, I'd love to read your comments below. Get ready for the next installment very soon. Please like and subscribe so you don't miss out. Catch you later.